Hey everybody, this is Alan from Woodcrest Bonsai, and in this video I'm going to work on 3 more Portulacaria jade, and they're all unique. They all need different care, and so like the one in the middle I repotted fairly recently, so it will not get a repotting today. It really just needs to be trimmed. And then the one on the right in the little green pot has very nice structure as far as the branching, but it needs to be repotted. And then the one on the left in the blue pot needs to be restyled and repotted. So I'm going to start with the one in the middle. And I'm also going to refresh your memory, because this guy was repotted from this pot. I guess we can zoom in a little bit. So this is a very cool pot. I love this pot. If we look underneath, it says 2013. He's got a code 94513. So over 10 years. And I just love the way his glaze and everything. He even has a groove for the wire if you want. He's got wire holes. And I love this stuff, and I loved his pots. And he also had a pot with a face, which is this guy right here. And I love this guy too. I said, oh man, that is so cool. And so he said, do you want it? And he just gave me this pot here. And I brought it home, and another friend of mine came over, and he looked at it, and he said, man, that looks just like Stan. So we had a mutual friend, and after looking at it, it was like, oh my God, it does look like Stan. So this guy has now been Stan for quite a few years, and he will remain Stan forever. He's had a bad hair day. Usually what I do is in the spring, I pull the mondo grass out and split it apart and give him a whole fresh soil. But that's another story. He is kind of cool though. I do love Stan. And I wanted to show you this guy, because I also wanted to show you just how much, if we put this pot up now, you'll notice that this tree is really way too large for this pot. And that happens quite a bit, at least with me, is your trees grow, and over time they outgrow their pot. And you could be cutting way back and way back, way back and keep it in the same pot. But I have no problem with letting the trees grow and then giving them larger pots as they continue to grow. It's really, really hard to keep a tree exactly the same size for many, many years, especially smaller trees like this. So this guy was repotted, and one of the reasons I repotted it was once again I did not want to go way back, and it was just falling over. In this pot here, it was just constantly falling over. So put it in this pot, still a little top heavy, so I do have it wired into the pot. But today all it really needs is to have all of the growing tips cut. I like the styling, I like the branching. There was really nothing I want to do drastically on this tree. And even with letting it grow, I still want to do this trimming on this tree. I try, and of course that's impossible for me because I have just too many trees, but I try to follow the rule that when a branch grows to 4 or 5 leaves, cut it back to 1 or 2. And if I can follow that, then my trees will just be spectacular. Ramification and dense foliage and just exactly the way you think a bonsai should be. But that's a pretty tall order when there's only 24 hours in a day. And you don't really want to be working 24 hours on your trees. But if I can pull that off, now here we have some growth that's shooting against the grain, so I always take that off. I want all my branching to be going out, away from the trunk. And this is just a basic, little off the top kind of haircut. There could be, here's another one that's growing against the grain. There could be some styling decisions. Like I wired this guy down. But right now, this is just simple maintenance haircut. Getting a tree ready for like a show, if I was going to put it into a display, then, this tree isn't even close to being ready to be put in a display. I suppose it's nice enough, but in my mind it needs far more work to be put in a display. So let's say the display was going to be in August, then I would need to be working now to get it ready for then. But that's about it for this guy. He has really grown well. I like the movement and the branching. And of course, since I grew this tree from scratch, I grew a lot of these trees from scratch. Trouble is, some of them I pay attention to, and some of them, should I admit it, some of them have just sort of sat there. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the trees. I'm apologizing to the trees. I talk to the trees, but the trees do not hear. That's an adaptation of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I talk to the wind. Anyway, there we go. Number one, no root burning. Okay, what do we do next? Let's do this guy next. I guess that's good. So this is a very cool tree. Has a really nice, big, thick, fat trunk. Has some problems. There's bar branches here. And the way the branches are going, then this one should come off. But if I take that off, then there's a gaping hole right here. So do I wire it down? Do I do this? Do I do that? I don't know. At this point, I'm just going to give it another haircut. You can see it's had a haircut. You see all the little tiny growth fairly recently. But one thing it has not had is a repotting and a root pruning. And I really think that this tree is going to respond to a good repotting and root pruning quite favorably. It's just way root bound, and we're going to find that out very soon. And I love these little pots. And should I admit it, I bought these pots, of course we're talking 30 years ago, for 75 cents a piece. I know. Of course, milk was $1 back then. I had to walk to school uphill both ways. Oh wait, no, it wasn't that long ago. So I've got a few more little extra pots here. I got this guy here. And I got this guy here that's probably way too big. That one might work though. And of course I have a giant archive of pots that I could go find. Maybe I will. I like speak, enunciate. Whenever I'm thinking of repotting a tree, I like to do at least 3 or 4 different choices and sort of set them up and see how they look. Because this is a different style pot, but if you look real close, it ain't much different than the one it's in. Which may be perfectly good. Okay, so now, this guy's going to present a challenge trying to get out of this pot. For number 1, it's been in there a very long time. And for number 2, because the top moves in, you can't just yank it out of there. I mean, getting it out of there by just yanking it is going to be virtually impossible. So I need to take my clippers, cut down as straight as I can. Wow, it's a beautiful morning and no wind. But by the afternoon, it just seems this year has been windier than any year I remember. Am I even in the picture? Oh my Lord. Well, actually, I felt it loosen up pretty well. So, there we go. There we go. Look at that. All that excess dirt in there. And it wasn't bonsai soil. So now I'm going to get my tray. Okay, so this is the front. I want to take it down a little. And I cut that root there, which I guess I had to get it out of the pot. Okay. So now conceivably it could go back into this pot because there's a whole bunch more. See if I can get the rest of this stuff out of here. And there's the screen, which even if I'm not going to use this pot, I can use on another pot. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll go get 2 or 3 more pots and do the fashion show. This pot is a green glaze rectangle. Alright, so back with some pots. Alright, we got a bunch of them. So let's do our fashion show. First on the list is this dark brown glazed. They're all glazed. Actually, a lot of mass-produced pots, these small pots, are almost always glazed. You never get them unglazed. Rarely. So, put him in there. He looks beauty-muss. Okay, next one is... Next up, we have the green rectangular glaze. Oh, just as beauty-muss. Third on the list is an oval with a very interesting glaze, even though this is a mass-produced pot. It's so mass-produced that they got the drain hole way off the center. I love that. Oh no, it's kind of like having too many cheeses at the store. Which one do I buy? Too many choices. This one's a little shallower. And then we have this nice green one. And last but not least, a white scalloped pot. Which is also a nice pot, but I don't think it fits with this tree. So let's see. We're going to eliminate the white one. And we're going to eliminate the original one. And I think we're going to eliminate this one too. So we've got this guy, or this guy. This one's a little shallow. Although I do love the glaze on these guys, even though they're mass-produced pots. A little shallow. Probably should put the front as the front, right? Some of you are yelling, use that one! I think this guy's good. Either this one or this one. Very, very similar. And I think I'm going to go with the darker one. Okay, so the decision has been made. To go with that guy. And these pots are small enough where they don't really need the large grain. It's going to be all small grain. I have to admit that some of these guys have not been root pruned in a longer amount of time than I want to admit. But this channel has changed all of that. Because now I have to answer to somebody. That's my own devices. I'm like, I can wait. And I'm still attempting to build my new benches with fresh wood. And the goal was to take all the old trees that need so much work off of the old bench, do this with them, and then put them on the new bench. But I'm going to tell you what, it's going to take me 2 months to do that. So I may just have to move everything off the old bench and just rework them. And then instead of slowly taking them off the old bench and doing this and putting them on the new bench, take everything off the old bench, add the new wood, and then begin the same process, because it's just taking way too long to do this. And I'm never going to admit I have too many trees, but I do have a lot of trees. No doubt about that. Alright, so then the next guy here, he is like, what in the world happened to this one? Yeah. So first of all, what happened to it is it fell over in the pot. You can see, look at the roots. The whole thing. Yeah, you know, I'm cutting this off anyway, so I'm cutting it off so we can see what we're doing. So this is the back of the tree, at least now. But you notice how it's all it just fell over. The root ball is like in midair over here. So do we put it back like that? And this is kind of like one where it has decent structure, but there probably is a few more styling decisions I need to make on this thing. That's exactly what I want to do with it. So it's another one of those where you say, okay, let's just cut it all the way back. Now it has a decent structure, and then let's repot it. And isn't that interesting? This was the pot that it was in, and this was one of the pots that I'd chosen for the other guy. Although it is a little bit different because the corners are scalloped just a tiny little bit, versus this old original pot does not have the scalloped corners. Now I do have this pot here, which is just slightly larger, just very slightly larger. And that might work for this guy, especially since I want to try to get all this root down in there. So that might actually work for this guy. So that's where we're heading. I'm going to take off all of this, which probably won't be that difficult. There's the old screen, which, it's pretty decrepit, but I think we can use it. Especially since the drain hole of the new pot Sorry. That's another thing with these mass-produced pots is you don't get much drainage on some of them. I mean, look at this one. The drain hole here is much, much larger. Bigger pot with a smaller drain hole. But, you know, they're called slip casts. So they're pushed into a mold, and then they're popped out of the mold, and then they're glazed, who knows, even maybe by a machine, and then put into a kiln. So they're just, there's nothing handmade about any of it. And this is interesting. We have one gigantic root that comes from here and then down and then follows the pot and the whole thing. So if I cut this guy off, I'm cutting off virtually every root that it's got. Few little tiny feeders. However, it's a jade. So what we've done basically is we've turned it back into a cutting. That's okay because jades root from cuttings super easy, and this guy will be just fine. Now you may think it's paradoxical that I'm now putting it into a larger pot because the root ball certainly doesn't need it. And here's a perfect example of it, just a raw cut on a huge root. That needs to heal over, needs to callus over. Now I can still put it in the pot and it will callus over just fine. Just don't water it. So on all of my Portulacaria, no matter how drastic the root pruning is, no water for 24 hours. Let those cuts heal over. And of course I'm doing this at the end of April, which is perfect time for where I live. I'm in zone 10 in Florida, a very mild climate. We've got brand new growth on just about everything. So I'm going to get my screen, my decrepit screen here. And once again, even though there's only one tiny drain hole, I usually like to just take a piece of screen and just cover the whole bottom of the pot. It's just that much simpler. Keeps it more stable. Just a little tiny bit of soil. Oh yeah, so much better. We have some funkiness right here. See how these two branches are parallel? And I really, you know, in a perfect world, I want my first main branch to be, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So there may be some wiring that's necessary in the future. And I found I don't know what you'd call it. It's not a chopstick, but it's a soil pusher in a jobby. So I'm going to use it. Will wonders ever cease? And this is another thing. I haven't got a single slightest clue where I got this from. You could put me on the witness stand and under oath I would say, I don't know, I just don't know. But that's all right. Okay, so how does it look? Maybe we should get this out of there. Not bad. Certainly an improvement over the weirdness that it was. So as is usually the case, I'm going to take away the tray and then bring back the trees. There we go, 3 more Portulacaria. The one in the middle only got a slight trimming, and the one on the left really got a huge trimming and a repot. But I think it's going to be a nice tree. It certainly wasn't as drastic as some of the other ones. Some of the other videos I've done within the past week or so, a couple of days, I was in a major drastic mode, like let's just chop this down to almost nothing. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Portulacarias are probably the best beginner tree that you can grow because they're so forgiving if you forget to water. And they're also tender to cold, so if you're up north, they're going to need some kind of cold protection. But there are some people, even some YouTubers, that grow a lot of their Portulacarias all indoors. They have shelving and lighting, and so it can be done. I am an outdoor guy. I don't have anything indoors, not even houseplants. So all my bonsai are outside in different sun exposure. There's no doubt about that. I've got some trees that live under fairly dense shade, others that live under dapple shade, others that have a full sun exposure in the morning and then shade in the afternoon, and very, very few are being blasted with full sun all day long, because I find that it's just a little easier on the trees if they get some afternoon shade, especially in the heat, the brutal heat of summer that we get here from about June 1 to about September 30. So please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you haven't already. Leave a comment if you'd like. I know I have a bunch of these, and sometimes I think, man, this just got to be redundant. Portulacaria after Portulacaria after Portulacaria. However, these trees, most of these trees are around 20 years old. So that's why they have the barkiness and the fissures, and they don't look like the little light brown. We have some people that are styling very young trees, and you can see the difference. These are very old trees with a lot of character. And I have so many more to go. So that will be the next video. So until then, thank you so much for watching Woodcrest Bonsai.